Hello everyone. My name is 환산스님, and I am the disciple and personal attendant of Sun Master Songdam, who is the most respected Buddhist master in Korea today. So first, let's enter into meditation posture. And in this position, try to relax all the muscles that you're not using. Use only the muscles that you absolutely have to hold your body up like this. Now, just assuming this posture alone should stabilize our minds and calm us down a little bit. From here, we enter into the second element of meditation, which is breathing. So why don't we enter into preparation breathing? In preparation breathing, what you do is you inhale through your nose as much as you possibly can, completely fill your chest. And when your chest is full, hold your breath until you're slightly uncomfortable. And then when you feel a little bit uncomfortable, you release, you exhale completely through your mouth. And what this will do is, first of all, it will clear out the stale air in your lungs and replace that with fresh oxygen, which will of course refresh and recharge both your mind and your body. And simply by focusing on our breathing, we will be able to let go of whatever is bothering us, whatever has been on our mind, whatever we've been doing, and it'll automatically return our attention to the present moment, this moment of simply breathing. Okay, why don't we try it together? So breathe in through your nose, hold, then exhale through your mouth. Now, once we've done preparation breathing, we now enter into abdominal breathing, which is the main breathing pattern of sun meditation. In abdominal breathing, what we're going to do is we're going to breathe entirely through our nose now, not at all through our mouths. And what we do is we inhale slowly and naturally, a little bit slower than usual. And as we inhale, we push out our lower belly, as if there is a balloon in the pit of my stomach, in the pit of my gut. Just breathe until your belly feels comfortably full, like 80% full. And then hold. Hold for 2 to 3 seconds. And then when you exhale, again through your nose, exhale long and gently. And as you exhale, draw in your lower belly, as if you're squeezing that balloon, as if you're squeezing all the air out of it. Now, this form of breathing is considered to be the most efficient and effective way of breathing that our bodies allow. And by effective and efficient, what I mean is every time we breathe in the greatest volume of fresh air and oxygen that we possibly can. And every time we exhale, we let out the greatest volume of carbon dioxide and waste products that we possibly can. So literally, this breathing pattern cleanses and detoxifies our bodies, as well as refreshing and recharging our brain and our nervous systems. So why don't we try this? Breathe in, hold, then breathe out. As our bodies relax and settle down, our breathing becomes softer, more gentle, and longer. Each inhalation becomes longer, each pause becomes longer, and the out-breath becomes longer. See if we can notice this for ourselves. So once again, inhale, hold, and then exhale. And now that we have used our posture and correct breathing technique to properly focus and stabilize our bodies and our minds, we can enter into meditation itself. This is the third element of meditation after posture and breathing. This is thought regulation. What do we think about when we meditate? And what we think about is called in Korean Buddhism a hwadu, H-W-A-D-U. A hwadu is a question that we ask ourselves. And we ask ourselves with this question with the utmost sincerity, concentration, and sense of urgency. We ask ourselves this question as if it's the most important question in our lives, because as you'll see, in fact, it is the most important question in our lives. The question in English that we ask ourselves is, what is this? What is this that directs my body? When I think a thought, what is this within me that generates that thought? When I feel an emotion, when I feel sadness, what is it within me that is suffering the pain of that sadness? So what the question we ask in Korean is 이뭐고. So this is the Korean dialectical way to say, what is this? And there's a technique to this. We're going to coordinate this question with our breathing and posture. So that literally we'll be asking this question both with our minds and our bodies. And we'll feel it both in our minds and our bodies. And the way we do this is we hold this posture, we engage abdominal breathing. We breathe in, hold, and then on the out breath, as if this question is one with our breath. As we breathe out in our minds, we ask, 이뭐고, and we take the last syllable G-O and draw it out to the end of the breath. Okay, that's the technique of this sun meditation. Okay, so all together, breathe in, hold, and then together, 이뭐고. So now, let us enter into formal meditation. This is a tradition in Korean Sun Buddhist Dharma assemblies, and I will ask you to meditate for the rest of this Dharma assembly. Now, the topic for today's Dharma assembly is love and work. Sigmund Freud, considered the founder of modern psychology, famously remarked that love and work are the cornerstones of our humanness. And as is well known, Freud believed that within our minds there is a set of complex unconscious forces or drives or impulses that affect us both on the physical and psychological level. These are all unconscious, and he called that set of unconscious drives the id. And these forces, these unconscious desires and drives and impulses, he considered to be very primitive, very animal-like, infantile. And he theorized that they affect our conscious behavior, whether we're aware of them or not. And what he believed was that if they are not regulated, if we don't learn how to control and manage them, they will lead us into both destructive and self-destructive behavior. And so he proposed that the only way to deal with the id, with these unconscious forces that threaten to overwhelm us, is to channel that primitive energy into positive activity with positive goals. What he called sublimating, which means transforming that energy into something bright and constructive and reasonable and rational. This was his idea, and he famously recommended that people in their lives channel their energy into love, finding someone to love, and work, finding meaningful work that contributes to the benefit of humanity. And whether we realize it or not, whether we've actually read Freud's books and theories or not, I think that his ideas have really become very deeply embedded in modern culture and modern society, because whether we realize it or not, I think especially young people really struggle with questions about, finding someone to love or someone to share our lives with, and then finding work that will be both meaningful and helpful to us. And the problem that we have found, probably in the past, say, century of trying to live in these modern secular societies, is that although we do want to pursue meaningful love and work, what we find is that our distorted or obsessive ways of thinking, our deep unhealthy emotional attachments, and our dysfunctional habits of behavior somehow get in the way. And so we often find that, even though the formula of love and work is very easy, it's actually quite hard to achieve in our own lives. And many people come to traditions, spiritual traditions like Buddhism, to see if these ancient traditions have something to offer to help us in our pursuit of love and work. And what I would like to propose today is that Sun Buddhist meditative teachings and practice actually can help us, even though we may not be self-identified as Buddhists, or we may not belong to any specific religion, or even feel like we're particularly spiritual people. So let's begin with love. Now, I've in the past 2 years, I've been meeting with college students and young Koreans and international residents for some time, and without question, the issue that most comes up in our conversations is the issue of love, finding someone to love, learning how to love. And so they ask, well, what does Sun Buddhism have to say on this issue? And I'm going to give you a very, very honest answer. The truth is that if you look at the traditional, ancient Sun Buddhist texts, they actually don't have much relationship advice. It's actually because at the time that Sun Buddhist teachings and practices were being developed, there wasn't a modern culture of dating, this idea of relationships. But thankfully, my own teacher, Sun Master Songdam, has given concrete suggestions or advice on this topic from his enlightened and very well cultivated spiritual perspective. So he proposes that in our sort of endless search for someone to share our lives with, he proposed 3 sort of standards or criteria for making the right selection. And the first he suggested is that you ought to have, the two of you ought to have shared values, a set of core beliefs and values that you can share. And this is very, very important because, and this is actually what holds a monastery together. Because in a monastery, you have a group of very, very highly individual people from very, very different backgrounds. And the only and living in very tight proximity to each other. I have spent more time with my Dharma brothers than most married couples do with each other. And the thing that gets us through it is because we have shared values, because we have a shared set of standards to resolve any disagreements or conflicts that inevitably arise in any human relationship, no matter how wonderful or harmonious or perfect it may seem. These values will allow us to dialogue and come to a reasonable solution because we agree on the most important things in life. So this may sound like common sense, but nonetheless, it's extremely important from Sun Master Songdam's perspective that you come to that we select each other or engage in relationships with each other based on a set of shared values. The second thing that he suggests is that you have shared passions and pursuits. I think that this is very, very important in the modern world because I think that as far as I can see, young people seem to be choosing each other on the basis of compatibility and attraction. But if you don't have shared pursuits, it's more difficult to share your lives together. The example that Sun Master Songdam uses is that if one of you likes to go to the beach and the other one likes to go to the mountains, it becomes difficult to share the events of your lives together. One person is always sacrificing. So this too is something to think about. Finally, he proposes quite realistically for someone of his generation, he proposes that there be basic attraction between you two. Now this is kind of a no-brainer, and the way he puts it is that when you hold hands, it should put you in a good mood. But this is something that's taken for granted, so I don't think it needs to be elaborated upon. But those are sort of the 3 standards: shared values, shared pursuits, and mutual attraction. And I think that like everything else we do in our lives, we should go about it in a practical and realistic way. Now, I would actually like to add two more factors into that list, and that is if you are a serious meditator, if you're someone who's committed to meditative practice in your own lives, then I would suggest that you try to find someone who either already meditates or is open to meditation. Now, the reason why I suggest this is because meditation is a path of self-transformation. It will change us profoundly and subtly at the deepest levels of both our conscious mind and our bodies. It changes you along the way. It changes how you look at the world and how you experience the world. And it changes you in a way that non-meditators simply cannot understand. That's just the way it is. I'll just give you a quick, for example, is that no matter how much we may study something like physics, quantum physics or something in high school, and we know that the world is made up of atoms and that it's mostly empty space and that it's mostly energy, the way most of us, those of us who have not performed meditation, the way we truly physically experience the world, the universe, is as if it's a giant, colossal, empty space in which very solid physical objects are colliding and interacting with one another. We do not physically experience the universe as energy, as empty space. That will take a profound transformation of our consciousness. But anyone who meditates for a while begins to see the world and experience the world in a very different way. We begin to experience reality as a manifestation and reflection of our own minds. And if you're experiencing life in this way, and this person who you're in a significant relationship with has no idea what you're talking about, things will start to get difficult. So as a matter of common sense, if you choose to enter into meditation and commit to it, then it's very, very helpful to find a partner who does the same. And after that, I will add one more. The standards are getting high now. And this is advice from the Buddha. The Buddha suggests and teaches that when we enter into close friendships, that we select people who have something we can respect and admire and emulate. It's not enough to like them. It's not enough to understand them. If we can respect and admire and learn from them, and they have something that we can model our own behavior on, and if we can do that for them, it's much, much better. I think that this is a very, very powerful teaching. In my own life, I have been fortunate enough to share friendships with people that I had deep respect and admiration for, and who I feel felt the same way toward me. And I have to tell you, being in a mutually respectful, trusting relationship is one of the great rewards of being alive. It is one of the great gifts that life has to offer you. It is one of the highest forms of happiness that are available to us. These are 5 standards now: shared values, shared pursuits, mutual attraction, and common spiritual practice, and finally mutual respect. These are admittedly very high standards, and when I teach this to young people, they often say to me, how am I ever going to find anyone out there like that? And of course it's difficult, but anything worth doing in life, anything worth attaining in life is always difficult. And while you're young, why compromise now? Why exclude yourself from some of the richest life experiences that this world has to offer? Why give in now before anything started? Why don't we be clear on our standards while we're young, while we are in this time of education, and have the leeway to be introspective and to work things out in our own minds? Why don't we make clear standards and criteria for these, the most important relationships in our lives? If people are always asking about love and always being, kind of curious about it, why not take it seriously and be as thorough in learning about it and figuring out what you're looking for in it as we conduct our studies and our work and everything else. So this is something that I want to recommend very much to our young students. At least consider these 5 criteria, because they have been taught by the most eminent spiritual teachers in Sun Buddhism today. Now, I also have a word for those of you who may already be in committed long-term relationships or who may already be married. I would also like to suggest that Sun Buddhist meditative teachings have something to offer for people who are already married and who are just coming to this tradition for the first time. And since I'm not married, I actually did a little bit of research on this. And what I hear is that in long-term relationships, and especially in marriages, the most dangerous type of attitude or behavior to engage in any human relationship, but especially in marital relationships, the most dangerous and destructive and toxic form of behavior is contempt. To lose respect for the person that you're with, to treat them like they don't matter, to look down on them. This puts an end to most relationships. And one of the great predictors, statistically speaking, one of the great predictors of eventual divorce in marriages is the belief that I already know what they're thinking. I already know what they're going to do. I know them better than they know themselves. When we do that, we close ourselves off to them. And when we close ourselves off to them, we completely end the possibility of changing things, of growing, of developing. This is actually a statistical fact. And when we feel contempt, when we feel, before the other person has even had the opportunity to speak or say their mind or properly express themselves, I already know what they don't mean what they say. When we do that, and when we express that in sarcasm, it becomes even more corrosive and more poisonous. I find it very interesting that the ancient Buddhist teachings warn very strongly against sarcasm and cynicism. When someone yells at you, when someone that you're very close to yells at you and says, you're a jerk, that doesn't end the conversation. You may be surprised and hurt, but you ask, why? Why are you saying this? But when someone is sarcastic to you, when someone is cynical to you, and says some offhand comment that lands like a dart inside of your heart, it closes you up. You don't say anything, or you reply in kind. There is no conversation possible when sarcasm is being employed, because sarcasm is one of the most insincere forms of speaking and communicating that there is. So this is something that's strongly, very, very strongly warned against, both within traditional Buddhism and now in modern psychology. So this is something that I would like to recommend. And the role that Sun Buddhism may play, the role that meditation may play in situations of marriage or long-term relationships is this, is that we can actually enter into meditation in the presence of our significant other, especially in the heat of argument. We'll have to do it discreetly, but you can enter into meditation and put down whatever is on your mind and bring your full attention to bear upon the other person. Often in modern spiritual culture, they talk about the importance of focusing on the now, focusing on the present moment. And usually what people think is, well, I'm focusing on my experience. I'm focusing on what's happening, inside my body, my mind, and around me. But that's not actually what focusing on the now means. It means directing your attention in a deliberate way. And if the problem is your relationship with another person, you want to be able to direct your attention toward them. The word mindfulness is also used quite a lot in Western versions of Buddhism. And by mindfulness, they usually mean, be attentive and observant of your own thoughts and feelings. But within Sun Buddhist tradition, you want to have a greater vision of mindfulness, a more expansive vision, and be able to view what's happening with the other person too, to enter into a state of peaceful, clear meditation and use that clarity of insight to observe what's happening in the life of this other person that you're with. My teacher, Sun Master Songdam, long ago gave me this piece of advice. He said, now as a leader of a religious community, he's called upon to meet with thousands and thousands of people, and they come to him with their problems, and they are in varying levels of distress. And sometimes, he said, sometimes someone comes to me, and what they're saying makes no sense at all. They cannot express what they're trying to say, and when they speak, no one in the world can truly understand what they're saying. And when that happens, I enter into meditation. I empty my mind. My mind becomes completely open and clear. And in that moment, inevitably, without fail, an insight arises in my mind. And suddenly, I'm able to connect with them. This is how we can use meditation. We can use meditation to open our minds and not assume that we know this person better than they know themselves. Not assume that we know what's going to happen at the end of this conversation. And look deeply into them, free of prejudice and bias, even though we may have known them for literally decades. And when you do that, when you look at someone through the eyes of meditation, any contempt that you feel quickly turns into compassion. Compassion for their suffering. Because one of the first things that you learn in meditation is that all forms of poor behavior, misbehavior, come from a place of suffering. And you can see that suffering and feel that suffering and extend, once again, your respect and understanding. Now, the thing that I want to advise against is that there's a tendency when people hear things like this, is like, oh, well, I'll do this thing and we'll have this great moment of connection, and that we'll have this, kind of aha moment of epiphany, and everything will be great after that. We'll put our relationship back on track after that. And I want to discourage that kind of thinking. That's kind of Hollywood rom-com thinking. The truth is that any long-term relationship is endless. It goes until the day we die. And so there's no permanent quick fix solution so that after that everything's okay forever. What I want to propose instead is that we take meditation and use it as a constant practice of relating to the people who are important to us. We make a habit of using meditation and doing our best to constantly renew, refresh, and recharge our oldest relationships, to give up both of ourselves the opportunity to rediscover each other over and over and over again. It is a policy and a way of going through relationships, not this thing that just gets you to a quick fix. So this is something that I very much want to recommend to those of us who are going through long-term relationships and trying to make it work. And these, I believe, are the applications that some Buddhism has to offer to help in the area of love relationships. Now, from here, I'd like to go on to the second part of Freud's famous formula, which is work. And often people think in terms of selecting their career and their jobs and moving forward, that they want to find something that they like to do and they want to do and that pays them enough. And that's very reasonable. But I'll also suggest here that when we choose, if we don't know what we want to do with our lives, first, try to come to a clear formulation of your own core values and beliefs. The things that you think are most important, that you treasure and value the most. And base your selection of work and career on those values. Let your selection be an expression of your deepest, most dearly held beliefs and values. And when you can do that, then you can project long-term goals, and then you can create short-term goals or benchmarks that allow you to achieve those long-term goals. And then from there, you can create a daily schedule where it's designed to make you achieve those benchmarks that in turn will allow you to achieve those long-term goals. It is always connected to your goals and to your values. You'll know why you're playing, you'll know why you're working, you'll know why you're studying, you'll know why you're resting. And this allows us to truly enjoy and gain the best of every single moment of our lives so that we do not waste the days. If we can do this, then we will be able to do what my teacher, Sun Master Songdam, suggests for practitioners. He says, live every day as if every day is an entire meditation retreat season. A meditation retreat season in Korean is called gyolje. That's Gyoljae. And traditionally it's 100 days. So live this one day as if it's a journey of 100 days. Try to get everything right. Struggle with everything. Make every moment and every task that you undertake as important. Give it your full sincerity and concentration and focus and passion. And when the day ends and you go down and you lie down to sleep, one retreat season is ended. And when you wake up again the next morning, another retreat season has begun. And in that way, we can make every single day count. Count in terms of having meaningful life experience, and count in terms of bringing us step by step closer to the most important goals of our lives. Now, having said that, I'd like to say a word about money, because we're all worried about money. We all fear being poor. And we all fear that we won't have enough to do the things we want to do or to be able to take care of ourselves. So I'd like to share with you the results of a survey that was done recently. I'm not sure who did it, but in this survey, they questioned a section of the American population which is considered wealthy. And by wealthy, the way they defined it, I believe, at the time of this study, was someone who has $5 million in total assets or more. That is considered statistically wealthy. So this included people who had roughly $5 million. It also included people who had $50 million, $500 million, and $5 billion. And what they asked them was this. They asked them, well, do you feel that you now have enough to be secure? Do you feel safe now? And they all said no. And then the next question was, well, then how much more do you need to feel safe? And the answer that they all gave, whether they had $5 million or $5 billion, they all said 50% more. So another 2.5 million or another $2.5 billion. And I think from the Buddhist perspective, the lesson that we can gain from this survey is this. Our fear of financial difficulties will not be removed by gaining more money. No matter how much money we have, because we have gotten good at making money, we know it can be taken away from us too. So whether we have $5 million, $5 billion, or $50 billion, we will feel fundamentally the same in terms of our anxiety and our fear over our own financial well-being. So what I will propose is that, one, we use meditation. Just as we use meditation to deal with everything else, and we make meditation a constant habit, a constant way of coping with these anxieties, because these anxieties will follow us no matter how much money we have. The second traditional Buddhist teaching that I would like to share with you on this matter is to learn the art of giving. Learn the art of contribution. This is considered the first virtue within Buddhist teachings, that if we are alive today, if we have clothes on our back and our bellies are more or less full, then basically we have enough to live. And if we have enough to live, it means we can give away a little bit of it. And if we give away a little bit of what we have, we are acknowledging that we have enough. We are acknowledging the inherent abundance and wealth and richness of our lives as we are right here, right now, without making one more dollar. And that is a way to gain security in our lives. Now, within the Sun Buddhist tradition, I'll now share a teaching from a text called the Scripture in 42 Sections. If we're going to give away our money or give away, some of our material goods, then who should we give it to? That's the question that comes up. And there are, many, many worthy causes to give to, definitely in the world. But just as a reference point, from the point of view of Sun Buddhism, this is what the masters have to say. They say that it is better to give to one good person than to give to 100 evil people. And then beyond that, it's better to give to one holder of the 5 Buddhist ethical precepts than it is to give to 1,000 good people. The 5 ethical Buddhist precepts, which are shared across all forms of Buddhism, are do not kill, do not steal, do not engage in sexual misconduct, do not lie, and do not engage in intoxicating substances. So it's better to give to one who consciously adheres to those ethical precepts than it is to give to 1,000 good-hearted people. Beyond that, it is better to give to one stream winner than it is to give to 10,000 precept holders. Then after that, it is better to give to one once returner than it is to give to 1,000,000 stream winners. A stream winner, according to traditional Buddhism, is a person whose level of spiritual development has become so high that they will never be reborn as an animal or as a demon or in a lower birth form. They will always be reborn as human beings or higher, and that's considered a very high form of spiritual development. A once returner is a person whose spiritual development is so high that they will only return one more time to this realm of suffering, this universe of suffering, and then after that they'll go to a higher, more transcendent realm of existence, according to traditional Buddhism. Then after that, it is better to give to one non-returner than it is to give to 10 million once-returner. And then after that, it is better to give to one arhat than it is to give to 100 million non-returners. And a non-returner, of course, is someone who will never come back to this realm of suffering. And an arhat is someone who has reached the pinnacle of spiritual attainment. Beyond that, it is better to give to one pratyeka Buddha than it is to give to 1 billion arhats. Then after that, it's better to give to one Buddha, a fully, totally enlightened Buddha, than it is to give to 10 billion pratyeka Buddhas. A pratyeka Buddha is one who has become a Buddha without a teacher. But finally, the most interesting part is it is better to give to one meditator who has no attachment to thought, abiding, cultivation, or enlightenment than it is to give to 100 billion Buddhas. Now this is a very, I realize that this is a very elaborate and kind of ornate way of speaking. But I think the idea here is this, is because the meditator that we give to, that's better to give to than to give to 100 billion Buddhas, is not yet enlightened. And the reason why it might be better to give to an unenlightened meditator is because maybe it's better to add one more enlightened person, to help one more person become enlightened, one more person to become a Buddha, than it is to honor someone who's already enlightened, who's already a Buddha. Maybe it's better to increase the population of enlightened beings in the world rather than to venerate the ones that may already exist. So this is a reference point for us. If we are to give, maybe we could give in support of the transformation and transcendence of human consciousness. And as a final note on money, as I said, we're trained to think that we will lose our fear, our financial fear, if we gain more money. And what the great spiritual traditions of the world have to say is quite the opposite. We will challenge and overcome our financial fear, not by getting more money, but by giving it away. This is the challenge and the teaching that these spiritual traditions have to offer us. And I would like to share with you, I'm actually not sure where this quote comes from, but I've always held it in my mind since I first heard of it in college. And it goes like this. We do not give because we love. We love because we give. We are able to love because we give. We are able to love because we share what we have. This is the path that's taught by Buddhism to overcome our own fear and selfishness. Now, in conclusion, the final thing that I'd like to address is that all of these things, whether it's building a love relationship or finding meaningful work for ourselves or learning how to deal with our financial worries, as I've sort of proposed to you today, all of these things hinge on us being able to clearly express and understand our own deepest values and beliefs. And what I hear when I talk to young people is often, well, I don't really know what I believe in. I don't really know what the most important thing in life is. I don't really fully know who I am yet and what I'm supposed to do. So how am I supposed to draw up career plans and find the right person for myself and make the right amount of money? So I want to share teachings in the most concrete and practical way possible. So as my final sort of offering, I suppose, I would like to suggest this, and it's very practical, is that if you don't know what you believe in, if you don't know what you want out of life, I would like to suggest that you take a pen and paper and you ask yourself the question, what if I had only one more month to live? What if I were going to die next month? And then write down 5 to 10 things of the things that you absolutely need to get done before you die. and you'll come up with a list. And this list is the list of things in your life that you feel you must absolutely get done. And what I would like to suggest is, why wait until the threat of death? Why don't you simply take these indispensable things and make them your life goals? It'll be 5 to 10 things, and you need to put them in the right order. And usually, I think especially with young people, when they try to put things in order, they usually try to think, well, what's the most important thing? And I'll do that first. But what I would like to suggest, and this is something also that I learned from Sun Master Songdam, is if you come up with a list like that, they're all very important. So instead of trying to think which is the most important, think which is the most urgent. Which one needs to get done first? Which one needs to get done so that I can do the others? Put it in order of time constraint, of whatever needs to get done first. And it'll become very, very clear, and then we will be able to project, to take these things that we want, turn them into long-term goals, make short-term plans to get to those long-term goals, and finally arrive at the way we should live from day to day. At the end of the day, Sun Buddhism and all forms of Buddhism begins and ends in our confrontation with impermanence, the reality of impermanence. We do not have forever in this world. We will not be, none of us here will be young forever. So it helps, I believe. I think that Sun Buddhism really has something relevant to say, even to modern young people like yourselves. It helps to think, what do I want to do before I die? Because I do not get to live forever. This life that has been given to me is a gift with an expiration date, and I don't know when that expiration date is. So if you take your lives seriously, then be honest and understand that it will come to an end soon, and we have limited time to get to where we want to go and to become the kind of people we want to become and make the kind of achievements we want to make. So let's take our lives very, very seriously and treasure every single day and every single hour and every single moment, and make a choice in each moment, in each breath, where we will direct our attention, where we will direct our energy. And the method of directing our attention and our energy in a systematic, efficient, effective, easy to learn way is sun meditation. That is what I would like to propose to you. That sun meditation can be used in service of your most deeply held goals, beliefs, desires, dreams, and hopes. So thank you very much for listening. This is what I have to say today. It's always a pleasure to come here, and I will end this Dharma assembly or this talk with the traditional Buddhist greeting. May we all attain the Buddha. Thank you.